Hi everyone, this is Hannah from Wonderful Woodlands, and today we're going to be learning a mattress stitch to seam up this hat here. So the first thing you want to do when we get started to do a mattress stitch is I want you to just take your fingers and run them down the edge of your knit stitch here. I find this is actually easier to feel than it is to see. So what we're looking for are these bumps along here, and your fingers are going to catch them. It's every other stitch. There's a bump. It's a little knot in your work. So we're going to pay attention to those as we start to create our seam. They're on both sides of your work. So if you want to just run your thumb down, you'll feel it's really bumpy. Every stitch, there's a little knot. So as we get started, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. So get your tapestry needle out here and thread your needle. I'm going to be starting at the top. If you haven't cut your yarn yet, make sure you have at least 3 lengths the amount of work that you're going to do of yarn, and that'll give you plenty of yarn to work with. So we're starting up at the top here. So this is where we got to find our first bump. So our first one is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this stitch right here. There's a bump right there. We're going to skip the bump and then we're going to come up the other side. So if you can see this here, we're coming down one stitch and then we're coming up through the stitch right below it. And that's where that bump is just going to guide you as we go down. So go ahead, pull your needle through this, and we're going to just alternate sides as we go all the way down here. So that is our left side. Then we're going to come over to the right side. So let me find my first bump real quick. That's a really big one right there. But we're going to get this stitch up here first. So we'll come down, we'll go through this side. There's a little bump right there, and then we're going to come up this one right here. And it's okay if this isn't perfect. Get as close as you can, but if you miss a stitch along the way, it's really not actually going to be that big of a deal. Okay, here's our next little bump right here. So we're going to come down through this hole right here. We're going to skip that little bump right there, and then we're going to come up the side right there. And we'll pull that through. You can leave your work so it's not super tight yet. I'm kind of cinching mine as I go, but if you want to wait till you get to the bottom, you'll be able to give it a tug and just pull it together at the bottom if you need to be able to see what you're doing. Okay, here's our next little bump here. This one's pretty knobbly. You can't see it, but my finger can feel it on the back. So we're going to come through this hole. We're going to skip the bump there, and then we're going to come up through that hole right there. And then pull this down. And then we'll go back to the other side. We're going to go here, skip the bump right there. That one's pretty easy to see. And then we're going to catch that loop right there and come here. So I didn't mention at the beginning, this is a mattress stitch. This only works on a stockinette stitch. It does not work on a garter stitch. So if you caught our other video, we had a different video for how to seam a garter stitch. It's actually pretty similar, but it does create a slightly different finish. There's my next bump right there. So we'll go above the bump, and then we're gonna come back up below the bump. And if you decide that sewing mattress stitches is not your thing, we are very soon going to be releasing a video on how to knit in the round, and then you won't have to do this anymore. That, I would say, is the reason I learned how to knit in the round, because this is one of those things that's good to know how to do, but it's not my favorite way to work a project. I would just rather knit. Okay, let's see. We got a nice big bump right there. So we're gonna come through and then we'll come back up. There it is, it was kind of hiding. So you'll see as we go, the mattress stitch creates a really nice even finish here, so you almost can't tell where your stitch is, which is really pretty. It gives it a nice clean stockinette finish. Whoops, I keep getting stuck. We're getting close. And if at any point you kind of have to wiggle with this bigger, chunkier yarn, you kind of have to wiggle your needle around to make sure you're through the loop and not through the yarn. If you get caught in the yarn at any point, just back your needle out and go back and find the loop instead. Whoops, there we go. I got a little piece of yarn in there. And then you'll notice at the bottom of my piece here, I have some purl ridges down here, so I'm gonna slip out of a mattress stitch right at the very bottom, but you can see this created this mattress stitch here. You can't even tell where your stitch is. If we flip it over from the inside, you do have a little bit of a rib here. That's your seam, but from the outside, from the right side of your work, it creates a really beautiful finish, which is nice. And I think that's my last one right there. So if you have some texture as well, we covered this in our last video, but you can just catch the outer stitches here to bring your garter or your purl stitches together. It doesn't create quite the same clean finish as the mattress stitch, but for this short of a little section here, it's not really going to be noticeable. And then you just really want to make sure you catch these ends at the bottom and get them nice and close together so you have a good seam down here. You don't want to, you don't want these going in different directions. We'll bring that together. Whoop, I got some yarn. Let's go through. That's gonna work better. And check it out. That is our mattress stitch.